So we were halfway through World War IV last time. Kindly close, thank you. Yeah, so the Russians, pretty much in charge of the war for all the Reds, uh, they just, how do you say? They only see victory for them. They don't really care about what the South Americans and the Africans are doing. So what they do is they pull their entire army out of Africa, South America, and India, move it back up to three main fronts: Eastern Europe, Asia Minor, Middle East, and Manchuria. And they bring all their armies over there, and every nuke they have, they bring over there. All right, and they start dropping nukes on the Eastern Europe front at first. They deploy it on several supply depots on the Polish front. Bang. Yeah, there's several go off there, and then a few more down here. Nothing on major cities to revoke a big retaliation. Invoke a big retaliation. And then a few responded by the West in the same way to disrupt the Soviet supply, but the Soviets, but the West aren't prepared for an offensive overall. They just think it's a bluff. But yeah, all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of Soviets just start smashing through the Eastern Front and seize Königsberg. At this point, they go up, force them out of that'll be Danzig because Prussia owns it, and crush them down in Silesia. And at this point, the West are getting worried because now they've just like opened up an entire new front for them, and Russia rolls through Brandenburg, through Berlin, into Saxony, and into central Germany. So it's a very bad for the West, as you could probably tell. They also push through Slovenia, and even managed splitting Italy in half and forcing a way through for the Sudeten line to here. And at this point, the West are in big trouble right now, as you could, what means you can clearly see this isn't very good for them. They sent some wind specialists in to crush the Finnish, which they're successful in doing, and then some more catch the Norwegians off guard and crush his port. So this pretty much safeguarded the Russian homeland in the east from Western aggression. Now they're going to focus down on the Middle East by first off pushing back just pretty much the entire front here. And forcing it back even further upon themselves. Desert specialists, mountaineers, they have to do it all the way. And now everyone's in whatever in the world that's not in Russia is getting pretty concerned over this for obvious reasons. They finally push back down to Syria. I hate that noise I just made. They make it about here. This is just fun, isn't it? And then they crush through here. This bro's just they're just trying to safeguard everything they have, and this is about as far as they make it in the Middle East before supply will just eat them. They also run through Tibet. Very sad moments for, I'm not going to say that one again. And then they do a little pincer Dunkirk maneuvers down here. And trap a load of everyone who just gets confused. They all get confused and a nigger. So that's the Russian heartland secure. And they do further maneuvers in Korea, pushing to the south of the peninsula. And then one massive thrust through China, pretty much, and as well as tactical nukes being deployed at the same time. Pretty much just encircles hundreds of thousands of troops from the original yellows, and yeah. And then there's a major push through China. Is not very profitable right now for anyone. But as you can imagine, them pulling out of major fronts over here resulted in almost the entire collapse of India. Several spearheads down the coast. Sri Lanka was seized, as well as a bit here. The naval invasion. So yeah, we had almost the entire collapse of India. They were forced to pull out of Ethiopia, as well as back through the CCR, who can't hold us by themselves, and they lose several of the Great Lakes here. I forgot their names after them. Well, late Victoria's one of them, isn't it? Anyways, they had to fall back through the Congo, and then one major operation here cuts off a load of the CCR's army and the French army, French Communist Army, and they make it to the midway through the Congo. And which is obviously a big downside for the Reds. They're losing loads of their resources here. And in the end, the southern pocket of India surrenders, the north collapses, and finally under pressure they surrender. So Russia has made big sacrifices in getting to where they are now, in abandoning lots of their allies in strategic positions. It's also seen in the south, where the Brazilians just had to pull back to more strategic positions to hold. They abandoned Uruguay entirely, as well as some of Bolivia and Peru, which are just horrible to hold, but even worse for the I mean, it's horrible for them to hold as well, so that's why they're banning it. And then they're forced to, the Brazilians are forced to leave Colombia, just not being very strategic to help out here. So that's as much as they do there. And then in the Middle East, more shenanigans are happening with the Americans. Please hit record, thank you. Where the Red Sea is now fully in control of the blue. A landing in is Abu Dhabi, yeah? Well, no, it's just a different. Oh, whatever. I don't even care. I'll Google after. And the main home guard force is caught off. Cavalry divisions, right? They're experts in this terrain, are sent across there, and then they do a smaller push here to try to finish them off what the Russians do. And that goes pretty well, as you can see, and the green guys are on the brink of collapse. And we see a major counter-offensive up here, pushing them back in Pakistan. And that's about as far as I get there. And the green guys are not doing too well, because they've entered the biggest war in history, and like, well, probably not the best side, let's be honest. Yeah, can't do it now. And then we see a pretty a China who's been building up for the last decade or so, has re-entered and declared war on the Reds and Blues to reclaim their lost land. So the Maoists have risen up against the Stalinists and capitalists to, reclaim their lost lands, to take off the Russian oppressors and the French American oppressors. How successful were they? Well, the other Chinese mainly abandoned the south in order to protect the north. So they managed to walk for a little bit here. Arunachal Pradesh, and this bit was left open by the Indians, as well as some of the Myanmar front. And the Chinese are mainly hoping for a white peace here. They're not really hoping for an actual win. And then some of Tibet was left open. But let's be real, they've got the most specialised army for this area in the whole world, so they're not going to collapse anytime soon. That's a whole other front for Russia to man. But Russia, being arrogant, thought they could just run through here, and they sent the finest people they have to fight in the steppes, and they just smash through the north. And there's some resistance, as will be too obvious, but then partisan movements. Well, this is all planned, but the bit they only meant to go down to here. They lost it a bit. Partisans helped Chinese soldiers force through, and 200,000 or so Russian soldiers were captured here, and they pushed back to the border, and even taking some of their rifle claim over here. But I will paint that in yellow, but it'll be too confusing for me, probably. I don't know. I mean, it would if I'm looking at it tomorrow. I'll be so confused for like a second, and I don't want to deal with that, so I might ruin everything. Is that the same colour? It's my stupid monitor, I can't tell. Yeah, it does not look like the same colour to me. Maybe it was next to yellow though, so. Yeah, I think it's next to yellow. Yeah, it's just based on what's next to. All an illusion, man. like money. Don't listen to the government in game. Oh, my head hurts. I'm always complaining about something. Yep, big push by China here. Yeah, and their tanks, they have a surprising amount of tanks, probably from contractors somewhere. Um, who knows? Maybe down here, loyalists over here, companies, private companies. They're communists, doesn't really exist. We can ignore that. Yeah. Anyway, so that gives them just a push through central China there, and the ability to hold off the north for pretty long, with a small little incursion of sorts into Mongolia and Xinjiang to try to liberate what they used to have, you know. So big China moments there. They might strategically pull out of India soon, who knows. And there you go. That's the 10 minutes of today gone, because I don't want to rush this. I want to. Alright, so just imagine my position here, right? I could end this now if I wanted to, but it would end in 2 years. That's not realistic, is it? Just think about it that way, man. I'm sorry, what do you want me to do, man? I want to write this up one day, it needs to make sense. Anyways, goodbye, my friend.